Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This car has a few gauges. I have the original gauges, the usable gauges from the truck it was from, and I also have a spare. When I'm driving, this is the gauge cluster that's used. It goes to all of the current engine parts and everything's hooked up correctly, besides fuel gauge, but I want to try and transfer all of those into the original gauge clusters. It might not look perfect, but it'll be better than me driving and then having to just crane my head down every once in a while to see how fast I'm going. So it would just make it so much more usable. I could have a glove box even. And I think it would be neat to do. So what I'm going to do is I have a spare gauge cluster. So I'm going to learn how it all works on the back. I'm going to try and separate each of the systems, well, all the systems I need, and then see if I can just use that. Because looking at it is pretty simple. A lot of it is just for the lights, which I'll have to find a way to include. But when it comes to the gauges, there's only like these 3 wires. So, or there's only, yeah, because there's like a positive, there's some weird middle ground, and then there's an actual ground. So, it shouldn't be hard to break it all up and use just parts of it. The speedometer is what I have to be careful of, though. But to start this, I'm going to start by taking this gauge cluster completely apart, just so I can see all the little components and see if I can actually split it all up. Okay, that's the first layer off. Set down the voxel. Now, get a good look at all of the gauges. Practically brand new, besides for what was exposed to light. I don't know if you can see how white the tips of the needles are, but anyway, time to get these out too. I should probably get the circuit board off the back just so I don't destroy that. This one's a little different from the one I'm using in the car right now because it has bolts on the back too. Don't know if they hold some from the other side or what. But there. There's the fuel gauge. Temp gauge, put that on the Vauxhall. Oh wait, that's oil pressure gauge, my bad, that's the temp gauge. There's the actual temp gauge, as well as the battery gauge. It's got like a bit of oil on it. Not sure if it's oil or not, but it's whatever. And now for the speedometer. They really didn't want this coming out. There's quite a lot of screws in there. There. So here's the, I guess you'd call it circuit board. Really simple looking at it. Now the gauge cluster is completely apart. This is the speedometer. Look how much is in that little space. It's neat to look at though. Even the to reset the odometer or the tripometer. Such an intricate little system there. But yeah, so that's everything, and it should just be connected by the 3 little prongs that I pulled out of it. So these right here. Oh yeah, because they would go in to right here. So that's pretty good. Now I just have to go through and see which one of these are necessary to the gauges I want, because I want this, obviously. I want the fuel gauge and the temp gauge. So I'm gonna have to go through and just see which ones are necessary for me. So I got all of the necessary lines marked. So I have all of the ones I need. I have a little symbol there to show that it belongs to this one as well. And these 2 are marked. So there's not a whole lot that needs to be marked, which I'm kind of surprised by. The lights are going to be something for afterwards because there's a few. I'm probably just going to hook up a few, put them behind. But even that's not an issue because it's just, well, whatever wire they ride on, so that's fine. But so now I think I'm going to go start taking apart the gauges in the car just to see what I'm working with, because I have to be able to fit this in there. So go take a look at that. While I was under the dash just looking, I decided to pull out all the gauges preemptively because, I mean, if I'm swapping the gauges over, they're gonna have to come out anyway. So I just wanted to see what everything was like. And I remembered the flashlight this time. I saw that guy's comment. There's quite a lot happening in there. I'm gonna try and rewire a lot of this wire and whatnot just to be inside the dash, just so it looks a bit nicer and to clean up the floor. But this is the gauges. This is the speedometer. Massive. And yeah, it's pretty simple on the back. This is the fuel, temp, oil, and amp gauge. It's a bit more complex on the back, but even then it's still dead simple. It's just wires. So they're pretty cool. Yeah, so now it's all empty. There actually is a decent amount of room in there to work. Where's that flashlight? It's just a lot of wires I have to watch out for. Because all of these wires come up and are situated around in there. So once I do clean all that stuff up, that will be a lot better because it's just tangled on like random parts. So I'm gonna go start making a plan for how I can even get the new gauges to fit in there. So be back when I have some. I think I have a plan for what I can do. These gauge clusters you can take apart. Like on the back, they are separate gauges. There's a container they sit in. It's like a shell. This one has it too. So I'm wondering if I can take off, or I can take out the original gauge, not break it, because everything, you can always take everything apart here. It's just screws. But I'm wondering if I can take them out and replace them with these gauges. That way they have the same shells. I can bolt them in easy, and I can also retain the front coverings, because these don't have coverings anymore, but this still has like the plastic. So I don't know if it'll work. I'm gonna try and take this one apart just to see if it's even possible, and I'll find out and I'll be back when I have some.
The idea I had in the last clip doesn't really fit into the car that well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to still use the plastic coverings, but I'm also going to make new mounts for the gauges out of this plate metal. That way I'll be able to make everything fit in. I can still have the coverings and everything should be held in place well. And I'm sick. It's been a week since since the last clip, so bear with it. But yeah, I'm gonna see how long or how I have to make the next bracket for the speedometer first, and I'll be back when I get that. It's the next day, and I got both the tabs made that do kind of work. I forgot to record the clip saying where I made them because my voice was horrible, so I didn't really feel like it. But I got both of them made, and I'm facing a new problem. Getting everything in the dash is really annoying. So I'm gonna see if I can take this panel out, because I'm pretty sure it's a separate piece from like the actual body. So I'm gonna see if I can just pop it out. I think the screws for it are hidden under the trim, so might be able to. And if I can, that would help a lot because I can clean up all the wiring underneath the dash and on the floor. So I'm gonna start taking the trim off, see if I can or not. So I got the little trim piece off and the radio cover. So now I just have a big void, which I guess I could use because I can get my hand around, but I won't be able to clean up all the wiring easily because you can see how much of a mess it is in there. So I'm gonna see if I just can go any further. I've got to take out the gauges. But I mean, once I do this, I'll be able to clean up all the wiring. It'll be a lot nicer anyways. So I'll get the gauges out and see what else is holding it on. It has been done. I managed to get all of the secret mystery bolts, and now I have plenty of room to work. It's a lot more room than I expected. I knew it had a lot of space, but there's far more than I really expected. But you can see how much of a mess the wiring is. Like, it's being wrapped around things that shouldn't be. So just random wires. So I am gonna clean up all of this stuff, get it just so it's not as much of a pain. Wonder if all the heater stuff still works. Yeah. It's weird seeing it like this though, because it's just a massive void. But at least now I can work with everything, and it'll be easier to mount the gauges because now I can actually get behind the gauge cluster, so I can just fit everything in before I put it back, and then that should solve all my issues. It's massive dash. It weighs like 40 pounds too, so yeah. Well, I guess I'm gonna get to work, sort out some wiring, and I'll be back. I got a few things done. I got these wires are good, and all of the original gauges, or all the original switches are good. But I was sitting here and thinking, I don't know where to go from here, because everything's like stuck on something else. But I think I'm gonna have to take the duct tape off of every single like strip of wire, because there's a lot of it. But I'm looking at it, and my grandfather, he must have like wrapped the wires around each other and then taped them. So some of these wires can easily be out of the way if I take the duct tape off, but there's quite a lot, so I'm gonna strip them down and see where that gets me. Okay, I got most of the tape off, and it's quite a mess. There's a lot of just tangled wires and whatnot, and I made the decision.
I'm going to split this video up into parts. So this is going to be part 1 of just dismantling everything. And in the next one, I'm going to start just splicing these wires and lengthening them. I bought some brand new wire. I have 50 feet of wire. Just like flat black wire. So I'm hoping that that should be enough just to stretch out everything a little bit. And it should be, because I mean, all this stuff is fine over here. It's whatever's on the side, like those 3 things there, those 2, that light, like that stuff. I just have to splice the wires, make it a little bit longer, and put it under the seat. And it'll be good. And then stuff under the dash over here. The steering wheel's big, it's kind of in the way. Just what's in there. I have to, that switch right there, I'm going to have to cut the wires to that and make it a bit longer, because I want to put it in the original, in the dash too. Because I think that switch on the side right there, my finger's pointing. That used to be the light switch, so I'm going to put this more modern switch into there. Just make it look nice. And maybe if I have a chance, I want to put the ignition somewhere. So I could even put that where the original one was, maybe. Maybe. It might be enough room. Meh. Maybe. But that's something for future me to think about, because as for now, that is pretty much all I can do for this video. But now that I have all the equipment, I can start right away on wiring up everything, which shouldn't take long. So, hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.